On this episode of Chords and Coffee, we are continuing to take a look at the 1-5-6-4 chord progression, probably one of the most frequently used and played chord progressions for the rest of your life. And why not? We should take a look at these chords, make sure that we know how to play that, but also the purpose of this episode is to give you some different chord grips, voicings, and places to play these chords on the neck that are unique to the key that you're playing in, so that you can have some really beautiful textures when you're playing in your band or you're recording at home or playing in church or wherever it is you play guitar. Even if it's just for yourself, it's nice to have different options to cook with. So without further ado, we're going to do this one in the key of G. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the basic progression, and then I'm going to show you some different ways to play it up and down the neck, and also some little doohickeys to add in there to, add a little spice. And one of them I'm going to show you at the very end here. You only really need 1.5 fingers to do it. So stay tuned for that. And it's really cool, and you'll be surprised how often this will be helpful to you. So, and it doesn't involve a weird tuning either. All right, so anyway, let's start with the basic stuff first. So here's a G, and there's a couple different ways to play a G. I'm going to give you this one first. This is kind of the Melba, page 1 G. And the difference between this one and the other one is really just one note. But this one starts out with your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E. Middle finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the A. Pinky is going to be on the 3rd fret of the high E. And this is the one where if you want to do G sus and you put your index finger on that 1st fret of the B, this is handy that way, right? This is a G, and this one's got 2 B naturals in it. The reason I'm spending time on that is this particular voicing for a G is a little more folksy, maybe even a little more country, but I don't play it as often as I play this other one I'm going to show you here in a second. But this is still the good G. Good old G. And then from here we go to D. This is going to be index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. Ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string. Middle finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the high E. We're playing from the D string down. Unlike the G chord where we played everything, this one we're not even going to play the low E and the A. We're just going to go from the D down to the high E. D chord. So there's your 1, there's your 5, here comes your 6. This is going to be your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D, everything open. E minor. And then now here comes C, index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. Okay, you're going to have your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D, ring finger 3rd fret of the A. Not going to play the low E from the A string down, C. Okay, there's the basics. Now, here comes this other G. This is kind of the more than words G. Right? The reason this G is nice is because instead of having 2 Bs, you got 2 Ds. And that root and that 5th sort of melding around together in the auditory listening pod of your ear sounds a lot nicer, especially playing electric guitar and you've got a little overdrive on there. You want that root and 5 to kind of give you that power chord kind of vibe. So that's the G that I actually use most often, and I would encourage you to follow suit. But here it comes. It's going to be middle finger on the 3rd fret, not ring finger, but middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E. Index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the A. And then ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, and then pinky is going to be on the 3rd fret of the high E. Good old G. Now D is going to be the same. Okay, I don't need to give that to you again, but here's the graphic. Boop. And then from here we're going to go to this E minor 7. And this is going to be index finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. This is going to be middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D. G string is open. I'm going to have my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and then pinky is going to be on the 3rd fret of the high E. What's significant about that, if we go back to that D chord, your ring finger kind of just doesn't move. It stays right here, and then these guys spring into action, forming that E minor 7. And then right after this, we're going to go to the C add 9. And then again, your pinky and your ring are going to stay where they were at just a second ago for the E minor 7. And they're going to be here on the 3rd fret of the high E. Ring finger's going to be on the pinky's 3rd fret of the high E. Ring finger's 3rd fret of the B. And then middle finger's going to be on the 3rd fret of the A with index finger on the 2nd fret of the D, not playing the low E. So this chord progression, these particular chord grips, this ends up kind of being a lot of people's first time learning the 1, 5, 6, 4 in key of G. It's almost Wonderwall where you have the, right? It's really handy. It's really handy because of your 2 fingers being here on that 3rd fret, creates, because of those 2 tones being in every single one of those chords, it kind of creates this point of drawing everybody back. It's kind of this pedal tone point, and it creates kind of a jangle factor that's savory to the ear of modern music. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Now that we know those things, let's go ahead and get the bar chord version of these. Just handy to have, okay? So this is going to be index finger on the 3rd fret from low E to high E, straight across, and we're going to build an E major underneath that. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like ring finger's on the A string of the 5th fret, pinky is on the D string of the 5th fret, and then your middle finger is going to be on the G string, 4th fret. Good old G. Now let's go to D. Now on this one, some folks will tell you to use your 3 fingers. I don't like that. The reason I don't like that is that this ends up being super utilitarian and handy for so many reasons. You just as well to learn it as soon as you can. And what am I talking about? Well, you're going to have your index finger on the 5th fret of the A, from the A string all the way to the high E. And then you're going to take your ring finger. And your ring finger is going to cover the D string, the G string, and the B string of the 7th fret. Don't worry about the high E. Just, I mean, if you can get it, great, but it's really not that important, especially since you've got all this information in the middle of the neck. The hard part about this is getting that bend on that finger knuckle right there. Maybe you can walk around and doing this, or walk up to walls and see if you can just get your fingers to bend. But once you get that little bend right there like that, man, you're in good shape for the rest of your life on guitar. And it's so handy because it frees your pinky up to do other activities. Right? So with that, Jordan looked at me when I did that. Or was it the activities part? Activities part. You're welcome, sir. Anyway, the E minor is going to be similar to this. We're going to just slide up here. You're going to have your index finger on the A string of the 7th fret all the way across to the high E, and then you're going to build a little A minor underneath here. We're going to have your ring finger on the 9th fret of the D, pinky's on the 9th fret of the G, and the middle finger is on the 8th fret of the B, right? And then the C chord, we're just going to do the exact same thing that we did for the D, and just kick it down here to the 3rd fret. So index finger on the 3rd fret of the A, straight across to the high E, ring finger hits the D, the G, and the B at the 5th fret. Bend that little ring knuckle, that first knuckle. And you got it. And man, once you get that down, look out. You are ready to go get the gig. You are ready to stand in front of people and sing songs. But one of the things that you'll start to encounter is, man, I wish I had some other voicings for that. Especially when it comes to recording, right? Or even just playing electric and acoustic together. This next one I love. This is really cool. And this is unique to the key of G. Obviously, you can throw a capo on there, but this is something I do a lot. This is going to be sort of a series of power chords, and you're going to have this open G string here. Take my my index finger, we're going to start on the 3rd fret of the low E, okay? Now we're going to take the pinky, and the pinky is going to hit the 5th fret of the D, and then middle is going to hit the 3rd fret of the B, leaving the open G, okay? This is an awesome chord on electric to use. Get you some tremolo going, or chorus, or any kind of modulation effect with a little bit of delay, because you have so many of these same notes. You've got 3 G's right here, right, ringing together, and then with this one D note, there's some overtones that happen when you get some cool effects going like that. Now for the D, we're just going to do this D sus4, and what's cool about this, in order to do this, you're going to have to move some fingers. Your pinky's going to stay put. Your pinky's going to stay on the D string of the 5th fret, but your ring finger's going to come down to the 5th fret of the A, and then your index finger's going to come up here to the 3rd fret where your middle finger was, right? Middle finger's just going to chill for a second. So index on the 3rd fret of the B, okay? Now for this E minor, you can leave everything where it's at, or you can get ready for the next chord. How would I do that? I might just, So all I'm going to do on the E minor is I'm just going to take my index finger, have it still here on the 3rd fret of the B. Pinky's still going to be on the 5th fret of the D. And I'm just going to play that open E on the low E string, skipping the A. And if you happen to get that high E on accident, that's the best place to do that. It'll sound nice right there. And then for the C, your index finger is going to hit the 3rd fret of the A, and then your middle finger is going to come back to the 3rd fret of the B. You can also hit that open E in there if you like to. It's a cool texture because you got that unrelenting open G string ringing like that. Here, let's do another one. Let's do this one. We're going to come up here. Similar idea, but now we're going to have the D and the G ringing together. This is going to be index finger on the 8th fret of the B, pinky on the 10th fret of the high E, and then ring finger is going to hit the 10th fret of the A, and I'm going to have the D and the G ringing open together. And this is almost kind of mandolin-y. Sort of sounds like you got a capo on, but you don't. And if you do this right, and especially if you're doing this with another guitar player, it creates a really cool, jangly kind of glue, sonically speaking, that kind of just ties everything in together. So after that chord here, let's see, I'm having a hard time reading my own writing. Oh yeah, from here, we're just gonna move our ring finger to the D that's on the low E. So ring finger comes off of the A string of the 10th fret, and then moves over here to the low E string of the 10th fret. Then for this E minor, this looks stretchy, but it's really not. Your pinky's going to stay where he's at here on the 10th fret of the high E, and then your index finger is going to come back to the A string of the 7th fret, and then your middle finger is going to hit the 8th fret of the B, and again, D and G are open. And you're going to hit that low E open as well. And then for this C, it's kind of really a C add 9. Last chord was really E minor 7. This is really C add 9 because we got that D that we're adding on to it. Index finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the low E. Because of the way my arch of the index finger is, it's going to sort of automatically just kind of mute the A. The D and the G are still ringing open. And then, of course, you've got your G here on the top here, the 8th fret of the B, and the 10th fret of the high E. So that whole thing. Pretty cool, right? What's cool about that is, again, those droning notes. And if you take what I showed you a second ago with this, and then marry that with this, you are welcome. That is an awesome sounding pairing of guitars. And for recording, I would encourage you to try this. Do that, and then double it and kind of pan them, and then do the other one, and then double that. And if you can do it on 2 different guitars, you know, maybe one round is acoustic and the other round is electric, or, you know, one is, you know, J45 and the other one is, you know, a Martin, you know, D28 or something like that, or whatever you like, you know, whatever you got. It's really cool to do that. It creates a wonderful, wonderful texture. And maybe you don't do that for the whole song. Maybe just do that for a chorus or just for a verse, but it's cool. All right, this one's a little stretchy, but I promise you, well worth it, and you can do it. This one is really going to accent that major third. We're going to have our index finger here on the low E, 3rd fret. Middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G, and then your pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the high E. Your B string is going to be open, and your D string is going to be open, muting the A, because again, the arch of the index finger hitting that low E is going to kind of mute the A on. Even if you don't want to, it's going to end up happening. It's stretchy. And the way that you make it feel less stretchy is move your thumb. If your thumb is creeping on the top third of the neck like that, it's going to hurt, friend. And definitely you're going to induce suffering if you creep back this way, right? What you want to do is you want to find that spot where it's almost like you're doing this, right? And I've got my thumb almost directly below my index finger. And also, just be mindful that if your arm is way out here, maybe try to tuck that more into closer to your belly button, and less your couch. right? There you go. So there's that G. That's going to be G. Well, where do we go from here, Nate? Hey, super easy. We're just going to slide this thing, kind of do this traveling melody on the way down, kind of a counter melody to whatever else is happening in the song. We're going to do this D, and it's going to be index finger on the 2nd fret of the G, middle finger 3rd fret of the B, pinky on the 5th fret of the high E, strumming from the D string down. And then let's revisit that E minor chord that we did just a second ago, where we've got our index finger on the 2nd fret of the A, middle finger 2nd fret of the D, open G, ring finger and pinky are both on the 3rd fret, ring fingers on the B string, pinkies on the high E, 3rd fret, everything gets strummed. And then we'll do this C add 9. This C add 9 will be middle finger on the 3rd fret of the A, index finger on the 2nd fret of the D, open G, and then ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and then a high E is going to be open. So you got this melody going like this, right? I don't know if you caught that a second ago when I was playing this. I hit that D and accidentally hit that A and that E string, and my thumb kind of came up and muted it a little bit. Sometimes when mistakes happen, one of the best things you can do is just to play through it so you can learn how to overcome it when it happens in front of people. That one's free. All right, this next one. I want you to think about this as this is being built off of a D chord, right? Specifically, where your index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the G and your ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our middle finger and put it on the 3rd fret of the low E. Not playing the A, playing the D and the G and the B. Not really playing the high E either. Now, as it stands right now, this would be like a G sus2 because I've got this A in it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer on here with my pinky on the 4th fret of that G string. But I want to hear that travel of that sort of... And what's cool about this is because I just told you this is built off of the D chord, when I go to the D chord, it feels like almost like kind of a release in terms of my fingers, but also just sonically, right? And so even though I'm building tension because I'm going to this 5 here, and this is just going to be index finger on the 2nd fret of the A, and then ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B. But also, you know, it might be kind of cool just to kind of hammer on that, having that G string open, and then hammering on that 2nd fret, because it kind of echoes that movement we just did. And then now for this E minor, what if we kind of reminiscent of a little wish you were here kind of thing. Either slide into like that or hitting it like that. That's cool too. Well, what is that? We can slide from the 2nd fret up here to the 4th fret. And now I'm playing so I got the 4th fret with my middle finger. I'm going to hit the 3rd fret and kind of hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret of the B string. And I'm doing that 3rd fret with my index finger and hammering on. You can use your pinky or your ring finger. I think I like my pinky there better. And then this would be kind of an interesting resolution here if I just, coming out of that E minor, if I just take my index finger and put it on the 3rd fret of the A. And I'm going to mute the D because, again, the index finger, when we're doing these kind of big open chords like that, a lot of times the index finger will kind of mute that string that's right next door, and it's not a bad thing. We're going to have just the C note ringing, the G, open G, and then that E note that's on the 5th fret of that B string. So that's kind of cool, right? This one, Sometimes I do this too much. This ends up being a really cool thing as just a little accent moment, or sometimes if you're doing like you've been playing a song and it's broken down and you need just kind of a neat little thing. So this is that 1.5 fingers deal I was telling you about. So we're gonna play the bass note with one finger, right? There you go. And then we're gonna play the harmonics on the 5th fret of the D, the G, and the B. And I'm probably gonna use my pinky. Now when you're playing these harmonics, you want it to be on the side of the fret that's closest to the sound hole, right? Not on the fret that's behind the dot on the 5th. That's really the 4th fret. Right here on the 5th fret. And I would encourage you just barely touching, just barely touching. I always like to liken it to like a hot stove, you know what I mean? Like where it's like, gosh, I just want to touch it for a second, because what I want to do is I want to activate that harmonic and I want to give it the space to ring. So I'm touching this hot stove for just a second and getting off of it. And it's one of those things, it's a touch thing. It's kind of like standing up on the pedals of your bicycle. Once you learn how to do it, you just can do it forever, right? Now, I will say this, some places are easier to get harmonics than others, right? Some of them you really got to kind of dig in and search for, especially as you get closer to the nut, right? But on that 5th fret, that thing wants to jump out. So what you're going to do is, we're going to have our index finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, and I'm going to take my pinky on the D and G and B, and I'm going to go. And then for the D chord, it's really, again, a D sus4. In this case, it's actually just, I'd think of it more of just a G over D, just to simplify it. I'm going to slide my middle finger. Let's see. Yeah, probably middle finger. Maybe ring, actually. You might experiment with that. But this is the hardest part at this point. Because they're so close together. Yeah, ring finger's gonna be better. So if I go here, or if I go up here to the 10th fret. Yeah, let's do it on the 5th fret. Okay, so try index finger and middle first. And then if that doesn't work, use ring and pinky, right? But this is just gonna be, I'm holding down that D note on the 5th fret of the A, and then hitting that same little harmonic, and then an open E, and then 3rd fret of the A. Pretend we're at the end of the song, or like the last chorus, and you're just doing this as kind of a little moment, especially if you got a bunch of effects on it, or you could add some rhythm to it. It's kind of a neat doohickey to have, a little trick in your bag of tricks for guitar. You know, I hope that you take these and you're able to implement them in whatever capacity that you're playing guitar. And my hope is that you're playing guitar because, friend, it's a whole lot easier to live life the best you can with a guitar in your hand if you've got a guitar in your hand. And that's what we do every Saturday morning right here on YouTube, 9 o'clock Central Time. We get up and we do everything we can do to help further each other's musical journey. I appreciate your comments. Your comments mean so much to me. Thank you for sharing these videos. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Thank you for being on the live chat. Thank you for the privilege of your time. I appreciate y'all so much. We'll see you next week for another Chords and Coffee.